As we learn more about complex trauma and its impact on a child's development, change in the systems designed to help the vulnerable is inevitable. There are those who believe we need to make a major shift in foster care and adoption. Even amidst all the chaos, there is still hope.
It's a hard question if I had to figure out the changes in foster care, how I could make it better. It's a difficult situation, and it takes insight from all aspects to make it work. I guess one thing I would hope people will be more open to the idea of being foster parents. That would be a great thing. But I think also they have to really be very selective about who they choose as foster parents. Of course, kids don't have a choice if they want to be a foster child or not. But I think just the general attitude for the public, the administrative process of foster care, and even professional settings like case management and school officials, people need to try to work more together to get a better outcome for these children. That would be one thing I would hope to change, but I don't know how in the world you could hope to do that.
In my opinion, in the social service system, it is important that we begin to look at families and understand the issues, and that the workers who go out to work with the families have a educational background that will prepare them for providing services. For instance, if you've got a social worker who has a bachelor's degree in social work with no experience, that individual is not going to be prepared. If you have a person who has a master's degree in social work, extensive background in counseling, they'll be prepared.
And I think the other piece that I struggled with was that we provide all these services after the fact instead of working to support these families from the beginning and maybe being able to prevent a child from being removed. To me is where our society could put more funding and more programs. And there is definitely, you know, there are those out there, but they're not consistent in supporting birth parents and having more, you know, family leave and other programs to really support people kind of identified at risk.
Our community is built upon one person, one child at a time. And we have got to constantly provide care for the people in this country. And just let them know that there is peace. And amid dysfunction and amid crisis, just a little bit of peace.
We're learning so much more in the behavioral health field about trauma and the impact of trauma on our emotional and social functioning, and the field of behavioral health counseling is just always changing and always developing. So we know much more than we did before about how to bring some relief to children who have been traumatized or hurt because of separation.
You know, I think there is a shift, which is wonderful, that people are recognizing trauma and brain development and how significant that is and how critical those early years are. And so thankfully, I think people are starting to approach foster care and adoption with that lens, that trauma lens. And I think that's a really wonderful thing, but I think we still have a long way to go. You know, it's really easy to know about it, but it's probably a lot harder to apply that to a system that needs to be changed.
I think as far as our society is concerned, we are constantly bombarded with trauma. Do we understand it? No. Do we feel helpless? Yes. What can we do about it? And we're just all struggling with these issues. But if you've got an antiquated system wherein there is a hierarchy where the funding comes in on a state level, and you have a certain percentage of it that goes to direct services, let's look at the budget. Because where you put the money is where you're going to determine where your services are.
We abuse children in our system. We abuse our parents in the system. We abuse each other in the system. The school system blames child welfare, and child welfare blames mental health, and mental health blames the court system, and the court system blames the caseworker, and county attorneys are fighting with private attorneys, and everybody's blaming everybody, and the child that we developed this system to protect is not being protected. And we can't see it because our egos are so involved. We'd rather blame somebody else rather than stop and just say, what can I do to be a part of your healing? How can I enter into your field in a way that feels safe enough for you to trust me, to just begin to consider that maybe you can trust me just a little, because there we can begin. And we don't do that very often. We blame, we criticize. It's a very ego-based system, and healing is not ego-based.
Trauma, I still believe it is here, it is every day. And right now, with all the issues that are happening, we are all traumatized. And where do we go? We're living in a constant state of anxiety. So if you've got someone who's in foster care system, and you're trying to understand the politics of what's going on, how can you balance it all? Until we have some normalcy, we're not going to be able to deal with the trauma. And until the money is put down to the level where it can be utilized by communities rather than for administrative purposes, that's an issue I feel very strongly about, where the funding is. If we don't wake up and realize all the support that the kinship care providers are giving, they need support. They need financial support. They need emotional support. And there needs to be a program for kinship care providers to provide them with services.
The system itself is not trauma-informed. We don't have a trauma-informed system. We call ourselves trauma-informed because we understand the science of it. We can speak it, we can teach it, we understand the vocabulary, we understand the linguistics, but we don't understand the experience of it. Becoming a truly trauma-sensitive system means that every person in the system is transformed by the knowledge. We don't just know it, we become it. And I think until that happens at every level of our system, we're going to continue to see disruptions and failed adoptions because we're not meeting the needs of our parents and we're not meeting the needs of our children. As a matter of fact, organizations aren't meeting the needs of their staff. An organization that calls itself trauma-informed but has leadership that has not made the transformation to trauma-sensitive leadership, servant leadership, will not be able to sustain staff who are truly trauma-sensitive any more than a family. If the parents are not trauma-sensitive, will not be able to maintain a child who's come from complex trauma.
Hi, my name's David. Go ahead, Carolyn.
I want to go last.
This is little boy Zach. This is Zach.
Big boy Zach. I'm the eldest son.
And I'm Joel. And Rockstar Leah.
No, baby.
Oh, you're Leah baby, okay. And baby Leah.
And you're Care Bear, right?
That's my nickname.
That's
Yeah.
your nickname, yeah.
But really, you have to keep an eye on the kitty.
Oh, I do?
Yeah, because she would run.
Is she naughty? Carolyn was 18 months when she came to live with us.
And then Leah came when she was 4
4
months.
months old. And they are biological sisters.
And then Aiden, we just finished the adoption actually on May 30th.
I love my baby as much as all the stars in the sky.
My greatest hope is that I can grow up and not have my kids in the same situation that I had to live through.
My greatest hope for my life is to be happy. I want to be able to have like a positive outlook on life, and I want to think of myself as a happy person throughout my life, and be successful and have a job that I love, and do things that I enjoy, and be able to have time for my family and friends while balancing it with work.
It makes me feel very excited when a child that came up in the foster care system comes back and decides they want to foster, decides that they want to give back. And our programs try to give opportunities to children to give back to the community. One of the things that we have is a speakers bureau where foster youth can speak to other persons. They do part of our foster parent training. They do a program that tells foster parents how it feels to be a foster child. So they feel that they contribute, and they do vitally contribute to the training and the development of foster parents. Sometimes our foster youth plant trees in a park. We have had programs where the foster youth take around snacks and items of appreciation to social service workers to let them know that what the work that they do is appreciated. One of the most important things that all of us need to learn is how to give back and how to share, and not just how to receive things. Because that turning around of being able to give back is a real sign, or a real evidence of healing and emotional growth.
What helped me come back from all of the trauma I went through was Laurel and Jimmy.
Probably the most rewarding times were really seeing children coming out of pretty traumatic situations and being in a family that embraced and loved them and gave them the opportunity for a better life. You know, there's that whole struggle of recognizing the importance of the biological parents or the birth parents, and wanting to try to eliminate the risk in that family so a child could return, but also recognizing that that's not always successful, and it's not always what a child needs. And then also just being able to support the foster parents and the adoptive parents through the challenges, because I think people come into this with the naivety that all they need is love, and that's just a nice, sweet little cliche, but it's really not true. They need a lot more than that. And so being able to help them just manage the behavioral challenges and the system challenges, and then the emotions of it all, because it's really a very emotional journey.
I think every single human being has scars inside of them that will never go away. We've lost somebody, we've loved somebody, we've hurt somebody, been hurt by somebody. It's how we choose to live our lives with that. My response to them over the rest of my lifetime is up to me. And so when that suffering surfaces and I feel it again, I honor it, I acknowledge it, I don't put it away, but I also don't allow it to take me over. It's a part of me. It will be a part of me forever. And I think it is part of the Western culture that says if I'm strong enough, if I'm a good enough client in therapy, I'll get over this. My greatest loss in my lifetime, I can't tell you how many people said, you need to get over it. You don't get over that. You never get over that. But I navigate it in different ways, and it gets softer.
You know, you hear about these kids that don't make it, and buddy, I tell you what, we've got some self-driven kids that they're going to make it. Some way or somehow they're going to make it.
That's the funny thing, because, you know, we sort of feel like sometimes that we really didn't do anything, but I think the biggest thing that we did was just kind of show them, open up and show them what life could be like. Could be like. I think that, you know, you hear the talk about breaking the cycle and stuff like that, and we don't feel like we necessarily did a lot, but I think just giving them love, showing them love, being there for them, going to their events and doing everything. You know, Joel was actually there when Jeanette had her daughter, was at the hospital with her. And so I think it was just showing you care, that you love, and that, you know, they made mistakes. And, you know, Zach one time, he came running down the stairs. We had gone out, you know, and he came running down the stairs. He's like, please don't get rid of me. Please don't get rid of me. Please don't send me off and stuff like that. Because what he'd done is he had a candle in his room and he'd lit a piece of paper and it kind of burned a little spot in the carpet. I mean, nothing bad, but he was worried we were going to get rid of him. And so I think it was just showing that, you know, this is what happens in families.
It's life.
It's life. You're going to have these ups and downs. You're going to have these mistakes, but we're family. We're here for you, and you're here for us, and we're a family, and that's really nice.
And hopefully they'll remember that when we retire.
Yes. Oh yeah. Hopefully of all the ones we got.
Surely one of them.
When we're senior citizens and all that, we'll have someone to come visit us and take care of us.
Hopefully.
I mean, my dream, and we're hopefully building a house big enough, but one of my dreams is, like Christmas or Thanksgiving, I always wanted to have that, you know, that picture book family of, you know, like the huge house with all the families, the grandkids, and they all come over for the holidays. That's just one of my personal dreams, and so I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it kind of happens now a little bit, but later when they have their own families, that's one of my dreams that I'm really looking forward to.
Often I hear in the Western model of therapy and recovery and healing that we have time frames and developmental frames on what has happened to a human being and therefore what they have the potential for developing or growing out of. 30 years now of doing this work, and I've seen adult clients, I've seen elderly clients, I've seen young adult clients, I've seen very, very young child clients, I've seen entire families embrace healing that every one of my clinical peers would have said, Jules, be careful, you're gonna burn. This is a hard one. But something, I knew it. There was something in that system, whether it was a microsystem, one person, or a family, that even though their history would have said, in the Western clinical world, perhaps they wouldn't overcome the manifestation of complex trauma and attachment disruption, and have. I also have had children whose histories might not have compelled me to believe that they would struggle as desperately as they're struggling, and they're all over the place, really struggling to find themselves, to stay connected to us and our family. So we don't know it all. The human brain is amazing, but the human spirit is more amazing.
I feel like I deserve as much love as I can give, because I've gone through stuff as a child that no child, adult, dog, cat, plant should go through, and negative emotions and anger and aggression aren't for the world. That's not what love is about, and I am a very loving person, and I do believe that I deserve being shown love, and I deserve to show love, because Dave and Joel have showed me what true love is. And from what I've gone through in my past, growing up in such like negative and harsh, aggressive environments, I do deserve, like I am loved, yeah, absolutely.
While change is around the corner for foster care and adoption, transitioning to what needs to be built is a tough road ahead. But hope will pave the way.